Go. What you like to do?
Oh, I don't know. Play chess. Screw.
Well, let's play chess.
Richardson gonna take off and run. He's in there! Touchdown! I-N-D-Y! Outside give to Taylor. Stretching it out. He's at the 5, and he walks in untouched. Jonathan Taylor. Turner wants to do more damage, and he does.
Here's Halliburton into the front court. Mishandled it, but gets a shot. Hits it! Hits it!
John, I have never been better to be on the air with you here in Indianapolis, a place where so many of my dreams have come true.
The Ride with JMV on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Hey, everybody, we're going to be busy today on this Wednesday. Do you mind? National Daughters Day, from what they tell me. Shout out to Lady Lou out there, the sunshine of my life. And National One-Hit Wonder Day. And I don't know who might have been listening earlier, but I think our good friend Sean Patrick Turley called into the Smiley Show regarding that with the wealth of knowledge that he has regarding one-hit wonders. I digress, however. You guys are here for the sports. And again, to start the week, leading up to the Steelers and the Colts coming up on Sunday. Colts trying to even their season at 2 games apiece in the win and the loss column. And you start it with the news regarding Kwity Paye and Kenny Moore, hoping they can get back. Wondering if they're going to be able to get back. And then obviously Braden Smith, I think, missing some time as well, the right tackle. So some guys certainly need to get right. And I gave credit where credit is due on Monday. You get a more clearer picture about Sunday's game, I think, as you move further away, because you do get clouded with the Anthony Richardson play. You get clouded with just the overall win, and that's all that really matters. That is first on the list. But as we talked to Mark Bergen on the show yesterday, who is a part of the Steelers podcast on the Believe Podcasting Network, their defense is legit. They go number 1 in total D. They are number 1 in scoring D. They are number 1 in red zone D. That is problematic for a team and for an offense that, for the better part of a couple of weeks, has knocked around other than Jonathan Taylor. So you would have to understand the pressure on the quarterback to make decisions, to make faulty decisions, is always going to be there, but especially with a team that has a forte of getting after that quarterback. But are they going to be able to run as well as we have seen with Jonathan Taylor? Because let's face it, at least for the time being, and probably for the length of the season, if you don't get that and you don't play that and you're not successful in doing it, more than likely the Colts aren't going to win that game. Is that fair to say? They had the luxury on Sunday of having a Bears team that I wouldn't say completely mirrors them, but in a lot of areas of dysfunction / discombobulation, there are some similarities. It's just in different positions. With the Bears, it's the offensive line. With the Colts going in, it had been the defensive line. You know, with the Bears, it was stringing together something offensively where they're just incapable of doing so. I know that you got 360 plus from Caleb Williams, but you look at some of the play calls, and Shane Waldron is similar to Gus Bradley, their offensive coordinator, to the Colts defensive coordinator. He basically in Chicago is what you guys know Gus Bradley to be here, on the hottest of seats. And if anybody is going to be griping and complaining, pissing and moaning about the Colts, the list will start with Bradley. And in Chicago, it will start with Waldron, probably even more than it starts with Eberflus. So there are some similarities there. This is the week where you're going to find out if the Colts at this point in time are able to dig and beat a team that's 3-0. Now, they're not unbeatable. Of the 3-0 teams, they may look to be the most beatable. You may factor in the Vikings in that category, but they may be the most beatable just because you don't really know what you're going to get offensively. Nothing really stands out, as we were talking to Mark Bergen about that very issue yesterday. Nothing really stands out. Justin Fields has been just fine. He's been just fine, and just fine works if you're 3-0 and your defense has played a dominant level of football. Just fine's okay. Just fine's not going to be okay if you really need somebody to make some plays and make some plays late and it doesn't get done. Then all of a sudden you become mediocre. There is a difference, is there not, between winning and losing, between being just fine and then being tabbed as mediocre. Yeah, that's where Justin Fields, that's where this offense seems to be right now, too. With the Colts, it's just trying to find anything and grasp anything. You know you have Jonathan Taylor, but again, if you look around this team, what else do you have? What else do you feel good about? The offensive line, I would guess, would stand out there. Maybe you feel differently about the defense. And I know certainly they feel good about themselves. I know Zaire Franklin, who was a guest on the morning show with Swebo yesterday, he's feeling good about that first game, playing off of that. You know, led the team in tackles. E.J. Speed at the other linebacker position, second on the team in tackles. And frankly, that's the way that it needs to go. If you're asking me if this feels like the weekend in which we really put the pressure on the secondary, it doesn't feel that way. And you will also note, given the fact that Jalen Jones was the AFC Defensive Player of the Year, they have, I would seem, a little bit of leverage to work with in that defensive secondary right now. I think a lot more leverage than we thought they were going to have because they have not been the most significant issue. Yeah, I know, this defense still, you look at it and everybody feels that they got right, but you see the total yardage the Bears put on the board on Sunday compared to the Bears had been averaging the first 2 weeks, 177. You can truly understand that it was probably more about the team the Colts they were playing on Sunday than it was about all of a sudden muscling up and flexing and being in that defense up front that you felt. But they did do some things that, to me, would position themselves with an opportunity of growth. This matchup, though, you know, even with the question marks that the Steelers have on offense, this question mark with how the Colts offense will handle the Steeler defense, that's where we all start. And that's, I think, one that even after a functional debate that you become a little bit troublesome, a little bit worrisome about what the answer may end up being. And to suggest that the offensive line can't handle it, I'm not suggesting that at all. But can the decision makers do it? Can the decision makers make those decisions? Because to me, with a Steeler team that looks like this right now, to me, it's going to come down to a decision here or there that is maybe slide the game one way or the other. At least that's how I look at it midweek or the weekend going into week number 4. And the decision-making of the quarterback. And believe me, you have winning the game at the top of the list, but there's a lot of doubt regarding Anthony Richardson that I'm sure everybody, including Anthony Richardson in this offense, would like to see a little clout built up in the positivity of that category. I don't know if you can expect that, again, against that D, as good as they've looked through the first 3 weeks of the season, but certainly that's what you're going to be searching for. And that's going to be the length of the season, don't get me wrong. But let's face it, the last 2 games has been nothing to write home about unless you're writing home with the worst letter of all time. Because frankly, on Sunday, the quarterback play on both sides wasn't great, but it was about as bad as you can get on the Colts side. You don't want to know how much worse it can get. And the Bears defense is good. Bears defense playmaking. Bears defense can get at you. But you look at what they like to reference as all 3 levels and what Pittsburgh has. And they're still waiting for, Minkah Fitzpatrick to do a little something. But they do have it at all 3 levels. They have it up front, obviously, with Watt. They have it now. They bring in Patrick Queen, the linebacker, playmaking, tackling machine. They do have it at all 3 levels. Problematic on the surface. Yeah, problematic on the surface. We'll talk about that over the course of the afternoon as well. Just a lot to hit, and we still have 3 more days to certainly talk that up. But at the same time, there's going to be a lot to bring up. Again, as I mentioned, too, Jalen Jones, AFC Defensive Player of the Week for week number 3 with a couple of interceptions. I guess that's the other thing, too. If maybe we haven't given it enough because we've been concentrating on other aspects, whether it's quarterback play or a lack of play on the defensive line with the linebackers, and maybe just by default, we haven't had to be highly critical of the secondary, but yeah, they did step up and make some plays. Jones made some plays on Sunday, enough to get him AFC Defensive Player of the Week, so that was good to see. Good to see, and we'll start talking with the Colts. Yeah, I agree, and the following is another thing. Do you guys think that it's going to be more or less than what we saw with Steeler fans in the building compared to this past Sunday with Bears fans? More or less? What's anybody think? Steeler fans can bring it. And I would expect them to do just that. I guess the other aspect of it is whether or not you end up seeing Colts fans put their tickets on the market somewhere. That, I think, makes it more curious than anything else. We shall see. We have plenty of time to talk that up over the course of the afternoon. I did want to bring up some IU football. Actually, some IU football, some recruiting. And Zach Osterman is going to join us bottom of the hour, right, James? Yeah, IU's got Maryland coming up on Sunday at noon. I think everybody's really happy about the start. First 4-0 start, and why not? You should be. But yeah, we'll start right there with that coming up with Zach Osterman at the bottom of the hour. Kevin Bowen's going to join us coming up in the 4 o'clock hour. Just a lot of everything, including the Colts. He was out there a little bit earlier today, as we discussed. And James Boyd will get to the Colts. James Boyd will get to the Fever. I was going to ask you this. This was brought up to me. This was brought up to me in text form on Sunday. Actually, I take that back. It was brought up to me on Monday of why I don't know what the other shows did or why I went as in-depth on the Colts and did not share what this person felt was enough info and enough dialogue regarding the Fever. And I said, the Colts still have the ownership around here. I don't think you guys would forgive me if I went in and didn't go full bore with the Colts in win or loss, especially on a Monday. And again, that's not to disrespect the Fever and its audience, because I know the audience is out there. There's no question about it. And I know that it's much deeper of an audience than anybody thought it was going to be. But it was asked, did you do enough on Monday with it? Yeah, maybe not, but again, a Monday after an NFL Sunday, especially a Colts NFL Sunday, and especially when they win game number 1 of the season, it is going to be dominated by that. We didn't get too in-depth with Dejanay Carrington and the poke to the eye of Caitlin Clark. The reason why I bring this up now, you got game number 2 of the best of 3, a closeout opportunity for the Kinetic Sun tonight. Up 1-0 in this best of 3. Fever, if they were to win, you push it to Friday night in a decisive game number 3. That would be at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. And I know a lot of you aren't going to like it because everybody wants me to side with the Fever and the predominant opinion around here. And this is just me watching it. Even with the slow-mo video that you have given me, the poking in the eye of Caitlin Clark, was it done intentionally? I don't think it was done intentionally. That doesn't mean it wasn't a jackass move, because it was. I will say this. From playing basketball at the lowest levels my entire life, when you close out defensively, and especially when you suck at it, and believe me, this is coming from a very genuine place. When you suck at it, you tend to play the eye of the shooter. You close out. I've always have, and I've always seen everybody else do it who especially stinks defensively. You try to do it to rattle. However, you don't get into the eyeball area like that. Dejanay Carrington violated that, and the fact that there was no whistle on the play is ridiculous, but I did not deem that intentional. I thought it was a jackass move, especially when you got these Edward Scissorhands things working on your hands the way that you do. It was a jackass move, and to me, that, I will say it this way, I don't think it was intentional, but if you're going to have nails that are going to jut out like that, like it's some damn weapon, then if you want to push the foul up a degree of severity to me, if you want to make it a flagrant, make it a flagrant. You can't get near the eyeball with that. Do I think it was done purposely? No, I think it was done to rattle, and when you closed out, you swiped, and there was the eyeball, but that's not cool. That's not cool with us if we don't have any damn nails. You don't get near the eyes. I've always felt this. Anybody else with me on this that plays basketball at the highest of levels or the lowest of levels? Never get near the eyes and never get near the sack. I never understand why anybody has to get near your sack or your eyeballs. I mean, you can put the hand up, right? Sometimes you're going to, and they call it face guarding sometime, but you can put the hand up, again, to rattle, to concern, to worry. You don't get near the eyeballs, and you don't get near the sack. I've never understood why that has to be such a consideration as, well, I didn't know. You should know. So as far as nothing being called, it was lame. As far as doing what you did, it was jackass. And then to celebrate a little bit later on, which clearly was going on, that's also jackass. But I didn't necessarily see that as, you know what, I'm going to go out there and pull this Three Stooges move, and I'm going to poke Caitlin Clark in the eyeball. She didn't have time to put her hand up like Curly would, right? If somebody was trying to poke him in the eyeball and those old Three Stooges. Something should have been called. And believe me, the one thing that you notice a lot, right? Because we're now discovering, let's face it, you just like me, you're discovering the WNBA. We didn't watch. We didn't much care. That's why you're going to have to adjust this best of three. This best of three was back in the day when nobody cares. Now people care. I think people would love to have a best of five with this. I think people would love to see more of a fighting chance you get with the best of five series. This best of three is not, especially with Caitlin Clark and the embrace that she gets, the viewership she gets. And I know you're going to say, well, what about the Liberty and the Dream? Do anybody care about that? Maybe, but you do have to make a rule universal. And I think the best of three is not beneficial with the way the eyeballs are now on it. It's going to be interesting to see if the Fever get punched out in that decisive game later on tonight, how many people stick with it. Do the fans grow and care about what else is going on, whether it's the Aces or the Liberty or the Sun, or will people just flat go away? I do think that's something they're going to have to revisit. Listen, the WNBA has a blueprint or a template, I think, of ideas that you're going to have a rebirth of sorts after going through this year, because you can tell, no pun intended with the whole eye poke thing, but you can tell that a lot of eyes have been opened, and some of their operational procedure would be considered archaic with the type of interest that involved this particular season, really from start to finish. Let's face it, they didn't look prepared for it. And you're going to say, well, I mean, how can you? Because there's never been anything like it. Understand that. But now you can. There are a lot of things you're going to have to make different types of judgment calls on. And believe me, so will the networks. The networks will do the same thing. Advertisers are going to do the same thing. But just like a lot of you, I'm new to this as well. And I have enjoyed it. It's weird. For me, I go to the debut when they played the Liberty. And I was sitting there with our boss, Dion, and the one thing that I noticed was if I watch another missed layup, I'm going to throw up. But I will say this, the ball has gotten better. And during the season in which there's nothing going on except for Major League Baseball, I'm not just talking about around here, but a point where there's just Major League Baseball going on, it does kind of feel like a port in the storm. But there is a lot of work to do, and honestly, Caitlin Clark's going to have a lot of work to do too. A lot of work to do to get stronger. I think the one thing that I like the most, and we were discussing this last night after we played hoop, the one thing that I like more than anything is the way that she and they want to play. And we were talking about this yesterday with Chad Buchanan and Ted Wu of the Pacers front office. You know, the Pacers push the tempo. Pacers push the tempo off the miss, push the tempo off a make, out of bounds. They're always looking up the floor. I love that brand of basketball. I love the brand of basketball the Pacers play. So to me, it automatically makes it interesting just because of that. But you're going to have to see an improvement, not just with the Fever and Caitlin Clark obviously evolving from year to year, but the WNBA is going to have to improve as well. Because you would have to think if they could do it over again, there'd be a lot of rule changes, a lot of situations they would change or they would deal with differently, schedule differently. But we'll see how it goes. Game number 2, as once again the Fever tried to maintain and keep from being eliminated tonight against the Connecticut Sun. James Boyd, we'll talk about that. He's covered the Fever the entirety of the spring and the summer and now into the fall. He's going to join us and talk about that and the Colts coming up here in the 5 o'clock hour. We got more stuff to give away, too. We got Bullseye passes to give away today. BullseyeEventGroup.com and the Colts VIP tailgate. I don't fashion myself as a meteorologist, but I will tell you this, it wouldn't take much because these folks are just throwing darts at a dartboard. They have no idea what's going on. They just talk really well, and they can stare at a green screen when it's looking like they're looking at the map on TV with you. But, yeah, this weekend, and I'm not going to just say, hey, it's going to be a washout. Now, maybe, what is this hurricane? Is it Helene or Helen or whatever? What is it called? What's the hurricane name here?
Helene?
Helene?
Helene.
And it's going to make landfall in Big Bend, Florida, right there, to the east of Apalachicola. So I don't know if it's going to be a total washout, but, yeah, hopefully not, because we get a lot going on this weekend, including, I mentioned this yesterday, too, 93.5 and 107.5, The Fan. We have a pop-up pickleball social presented by Franciscan Health. Craig Park in Greenwood, Saturday. 9 a.m. until 4 p.m., pickleball clinics, celebrity matches, food trucks, raffle prizes, and more. This is what I like the most, it says right here, James. Check out JMV and Jake Query as they show off their skills or lack thereof. How hard can this be? You got a ping pong paddle and a wiffle ball and a little tiny court with a little baby net. What the hell? I'm not going to go out there and play in the NBA all of a sudden. I could shoot a jumper there, too. How hard is this going to be for me? Somebody really going to be – they're going to be some guy there that's like a 5.0 on a 5.0 scale that's teaching this.
Yeah.
Have you heard?
It's like I said yesterday. They should just line people up and let you play them one-on-one.
Why not?
You'll
Yeah,
sweep
we
the
can
field.
do that, too. We can do that. No, I'm excited for it, and I'm not worried about the weather. You don't worry about the weather either. Just show up at Craig Park. We're going to have a blast. Seriously, you can talk a lot of junk. You come out there and beat me, you can talk a lot of junk. 1075thefan.com. Click on the events tab for more information. Free, open to the public. Craig Park in Greenwood. Coming up on Saturday. Saturday morning beginning at 9 a.m. I hope to see everybody out there. It's going to be a blast. I have never played pickleball in my life. What's so hard? What is so hard about it? Somebody tell me what is for a first timer, for a virgin pickleballer. Can I say that? I can't. For a virgin pickleballer, what's going to be the most difficult aspect? I mean, I bend over all the time. Can I not bend over? Can I not hit with a paddle, a ball, being across the net? I played ping pong a month ago. I've played tennis before.
Well, there you go. I mean, ping pong and pickleball. I'm
I
sure.
got
they're
a
the
good
same thing.
forehand. Hey, what's to say I don't go out there and look like Stefan Edberg and do a little serve and volley game? 1075thefan.com. Hope to see you out at Craig Park on Saturday, really all day long, 9 a.m. until 4 p.m. But I mentioned a busy weekend as well. We got bullseye passes to give away for Sunday, too, and, of course, a lot of conversation. Inside the AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live. Got the stream, the app, HD Radio. We got a busy one. Kevin Bowen, James Boyd, and Zach Osterman. IU 4-0 in Maryland, one of the more exciting games, highly anticipated games in IU football that we've seen in a while. Happens at noon on Saturday down in Bloomington. Zach Osterman about that, and Zach Osterman regarding IU basketball recruiting coming up next. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
This is National One Hit Wonder Day. If you guys want me to roll it, I will. If you guys have re-entry requests, we can do that too. This would be from 1981. You know what this is, James? This is a little-known, lightly played classic saga and On the Loose, James.
I actually kind of dig it.
That's a hell of a song. They're
Yeah.
Canadian. God, Canadians play great music. I love Canadians. Shout out to Nickelback. 1981's album Worlds Apart and Saga. On the Loose is a one-hit wonder. More of that over the course of the afternoon. Bowen, top of the hour. James Boyd joins us coming up in the 5. We've got tickets to give away, including bullseye passes, but on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline right now covers IU Athletics for the Stars. Zach Osterman joins us. So this is going to be the most highly anticipated IU football game Saturday since when, Zach?
I would say Cincinnati in 2021. That's kind of the comparison point for me.
What are we looking for exactly? And let me rephrase, Zach. I'm sorry. What does Maryland bring to the table that you feel at the highest level can test what maybe some, including yourself, would have questions about this IU team and its 4-0 start?
I think, first of all, this is almost certainly the best team Indiana's faced thus far with respect to UCLA. I think in the sort of broad brush way, I think certainly, you can always trust Mike Loxley teams to have athletes at a number of positions on both sides of the ball, to have really good skill players in a lot of situations. And when I say skill players, I mean offense, but maybe even whatever the offensive equivalent of skill players is on defense. We've seen some really good DBs and linebackers out of Maryland in the last few years. In a more specific way, Maryland can pass the ball really, really well. The big question about Maryland coming into the season was, Talia Tagovailoa kind of came to be everything for that program over the previous, 3 years, basically. Without him, A, who replaces him, and B, can Maryland kind of keep this identity that, I don't know if people realize, but Maryland's been, I think it's the 3 straight bowl games now. They won 8 games last year. They beat Auburn in the Music City Bowl. It's become a fairly kind of consistent program, at least as much as we can call anything consistent in the NIL era. And the big question was, can they keep that identity going when they lose kind of their North Star at quarterback? Billy Edwards has been really good. Ty Felton has been outstanding at wide receiver. I mean, his numbers almost don't look real for a guy that's only played 4 games this year. And if you still have questions about Indiana, I think one of the big ones is probably in the secondary, both depth and athleticism, playmaking ability in the secondary. That's where I think Indiana's got to kind of win the biggest, let's say, matchup battle this weekend.
Hey, Zach Osterman of the Star talking of Maryland IU coming up at noon, 11 a.m. Your coverage begins with Don Fisher and Buck Sewell, along with I think John across the hall is going to be a part of that as well, coming up at 11 a.m. on Saturday morning. And Zach's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Something that has not been a question for this IU team is the guy under center, Curtis Rourke, the Ohio transfer, 258 through the air and a touchdown on 16 of 20 passing in the win this past weekend over Charlotte. Just beyond the numbers here, what has impressed you about his maestroing of this offense and really getting them through situations where maybe you could argue they haven't been heavily tested, but certainly incredibly successful through the first 4 games?
Well, and I think he's one of the reasons they haven't been, heavily tested, though. And I think, this is kind of the catch-22 of still talking about a team in the early part of the season, especially before we get into the meat of conference play, for better or for worse. No, Indiana has not been heavily tested, and that non-conference schedule really shouldn't have tested them. But even the UCLA game, when Indiana goes out west and it's the Rose Bowl and it's, it's all the different sort of potential distractions or the bright lights or whatever, and Indiana just kind of makes mincemeat of UCLA. Part of the reason a team like Indiana hasn't faced a lot of adversity, and we asked some of the guys, some of Indiana's players about this last weekend after the Charlotte game, but part of the reason they haven't really faced adversity is because they've been so good they haven't created any for themselves.
Sure.
They haven't allowed kind of any to pop up. And I don't think any one player has probably been more central to that than Rourke. He has yet to commit a turnover. I don't think he's taken a sack in 3 games, if I'm not mistaken. I looked these numbers up for a story I wrote about how good Indiana's been in the red zone, which has obviously been something this offense has struggled with. You know, you think about the last 2 or 3 years, not just getting to the red zone, but then finishing in the red zone and finishing with touchdowns in the red zone. Rourke's, if you break down his passer ratings basically by 20-yard chunks of the field, all the way down to, you know, the opponent 40 to 20, the opponent red zone or whatever. Rourke's 2 best passer ratings are basically the 39-yard line to the 20-yard line and the 20-yard line and in. And that's actually typically where it kind of gets harder for a quarterback to pass the ball effectively because the field's so restricted. And part of it is because I think 5 of his 8 touchdowns, if I'm not mistaken, have come in the red zone. But again, that's not necessarily something you can just assume from a quarterback. That is where quarterbacks kind of tend to falter, tend to struggle a little bit. He has been outstanding in those areas. He's been outstanding. You know, I think a lot was made justifiably of his 9 of 9 performance on third down throws against UCLA. You know, he has just been poised, calm, in total command of this offense. And again, you're looking at a Maryland team that, if you want to talk about areas where Indiana might have a little bit of opportunity, Maryland hasn't always been the tightest ship defensively through the first 4 weeks of this season. You know, I wouldn't be shocked if this is the kind of game Indiana's got to win with a decent points number, weather permitting. We'll see what happens with the hurricane. But it is, you know, if nothing else, the kind of game where I think Indiana's going to lean into someone like Curtis Rourke and really try to create opportunities for him to make more of these plays.
Oh, man, you kind of upstaged what I was going to ask you next. If weather does become a significant factor afternoon in Bloomington on Sunday, how does that drastically change what Curt Cignetti and this offense likes to do, or what you have seen them trendly try to do so far this season? How does that change?
Yeah, you can never say, and I mean, I think we've all seen. I mean, it seems like once every 2 or 3 years, Indiana has a hurricane game where
they do.
You know,
yeah,
a
you're right.
hurricane or a tropical storm, you know, kind of sometime in mid-late September, finally gets all the way up into the Ohio River Valley. I'm thinking about a game against Virginia in Tom Allen's second year. I think that's the one where Tom Allen famously knocks over the trash can, running to the fans after the game. You know, I think it's funny because if you're Indiana, you're hoping for good weather, because if you're not going to have a sellout this weekend, I do think you're going to be close. I think you're going to be talking about 48, 49, 50,000 people in the stadium. You would love for it to be kind of this crowning moment. It's a Big Ten game. You know, it's a team that, since Indiana went to the Pinstripe Bowl in 2015, they've only had one season where they beat Maryland and didn't go to a bowl. They have not had a season where they lost to Maryland and still went to a bowl. I know this is a little bit more of kind of a Big Ten East construct, but this has always been a little bit of a bellwether game for Indiana, kind of in this, if you want to call it, this kind of modern stretch between Kevin Wilson and Tom Allen and now Curt Cignetti. But on the other hand, at least on paper, if this turns into the kind of game where nobody wants to throw the ball too much, where the wind is high, the ball is wet, the field is slick, etc., Indiana's got a lot more success this season running the ball than Maryland does. Maryland really has not run the ball well at all. And I will freely admit I've not watched enough of Maryland to be able – I've seen bits and pieces of them here and there. I saw a little bit of the Virginia game. I saw some of the Michigan State game. I can't tell you if they don't run by design, if they don't run because they can't run. They do have kind of a funky statistical profile in that they've only allowed 4 sacks in 4 games, but I think if they are either bottom 3 or at the very bottom of the Big Ten in tackles for loss allowed. So I think you're probably looking at a team that maybe just would prefer to pass and is better in pass protection than it is running the football. So a bad weather game could, in theory, fit Indiana, which has thrown the ball well, has 3, if not 4 running backs it really trusts. You know, you go back to those red zone numbers, I think 15 or 16 of Indiana's red zone touchdowns have come on the ground. So Indiana's been very capable in short field and short yardage situations running the ball. I don't think Indiana will necessarily be put off scheme-wise by this game turning into one where rain's a factor and potentially everybody's got to keep the ball on the ground a little bit more in the ways that Maryland might be. The flip side is, if you're Indiana, that might bring down your crowd a little bit if it's coming down in buckets and there's 45-mile-an-hour winds and whatever else.
Zach Osterman, the Stars, covering IU as he always does on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. You're a wordsmith. Did you like it when I said trendily? I just made up a word right there on the fly. I
assumed that was a phone app. I mean, it sounds like something that something that tells me where the best coffee bars are. But
Sometimes
as a man who travels a lot, I need to know where the best coffee bars are.
Trendily. That's what I don't think that's a word, but I'm proud to make that up. I think it sounds like it should be one.
I'm not a young man anymore. I can't get by on Hampton and coffee. I need a good cup. So I'll download Trendily and I'll let you know where the best cup of Joe is in Evanston.
I saw Kurt Signetti kind of fire back at what he felt was a little bit of social media misinformation earlier today. Did I see that accurately?
I don't know if it was today. I mean, he's been talking. I think he dropped the favored Nick Saban rat poison line that I know Lane Kiffin has adopted as well. I think in general, broadly speaking, I think Signetti is just one of these coaches that would prefer if he could turn literally all the noise down at all times. Obviously, that is not necessarily a guarantee by any means or possible by any means. But I'm not sure if anything rolled out today. He talked Monday and he'll talk again Thursday in his coach's show. But in general, listen, he is from the Nick Saban school of how coaches act and coaches' demeanor. He's got a little bit of arrogance to him, a little bit of swagger, and a little bit of just sort of like, I wish I could just sit here and watch film all day and not have to worry about any of the rest of this.
All right, switching gears to basketball. Sicily is in. Harrelson is still deciding, and so is the kid from Greenfield Central, Mullen. I'm curious, are you going to get 2 or 3 of these guys, you think?
Yeah, I can't say for sure. Obviously, people listening to this will know fairly soon when Harrelson commits. He's going to commit tonight. He has admirably kept it, pretty quiet. I think the last in-state commitment that stayed this quiet this long is probably either like Cody Zeller or Gary Harris. Like those are the ones that come to mind for me, at least in my lived experience, in terms of, there's a lot on the wind, but there's absolutely nothing credible, and there's a lot of it just kind of feels like it's people playing a game of telephone with each other, and suddenly 3 people telling each other the same thing over and over again makes it true. On the balance of probability, and that is a total cop-out from me, forgive me, but if I'm kind of looking at the landscape, if I'm looking at the other schools involved, Indiana's interest and kind of the intensity of Indiana's interest in these kids' recruitments, on the balance of probability, I feel like I would say it's maybe more likely than not that Indiana gets at least one more of Harrelson or Mullins. But I'd say 2 things with that. First of all, if you're asking for my confidence level, I'm probably going like 52-48, 51-49. The other thing I'd say too is, and it's always going to be a little different with guys in state, and I understand why. I've obviously been on this beat long enough to know that. But there is an extent to which too, if you're a program like Indiana, you always have one eye on that transfer portal, because between your NIL commitments, between the stage you can offer, the opportunities, even to some extent, and I'm not saying there aren't relevant criticisms of Mike Woodson, but frankly, one of the ones that rings most hollow to me is player development. He's taken transfers and freshmen and players he inherited alike and turned them into NBA prospects. He can lean heavily into his NBA background to be able to help kids kind of get better at a level that eventually moves them on to the pros. That the portal is always going to be a really big opportunity for you, and is always going to be a place where I think Indiana is going to want to cut its cloth. So if Indiana only winds up with Sicily out of if you want to call it the big 3 here, I don't think that's the end of the world by any means. Like I said, I would put it almost at a coin toss, but maybe shade just more towards saying yes, that they get at least one more. But I will freely admit that is me just kind of trying to read the room and the tea leaves and whatever else we read to tell fortunes. I'm not sure. Palms, cards, I think, I don't know, whatever else helps us tell the future, that the mystic future that we can't understand. That's what I'm leaning on right there.
Appreciate the insight, Zach, as always, man. Have a great rest of the week.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, as always.
Zach Osterman of the Star of the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline, updated on a lot of IU things, football and basketball-wise. There, quick break. We shall return. Terre Haute, Indiana, does it again. You can count on Terradice. I'll explain next.
but his whole place sucks. That's right, it sucks.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
So this is for our good friend Casey Valier. Greg Alexander and what band, James?
The New Radicals.
I've never understood how to pronounce her name, but I remember she was at the tail end of the All in the Family era, and I believe on Archie Bunker's Place maybe too. She was a part of this band. Is her name Danielle Bresbois? She played Steffi. These were not the glorious years of All in the Family that you know. If you remember the 70s and early 80s was Archie Bunker's Place. You would probably, television-wise, if you know the term jump the shark, it may have been, no, I take that back. I think when Mike and Gloria and Joey was born, that's when All in the Family jumped the shark, or when they moved to California or got divorced. But Steffi was a part of that, too. Also a part of the New Radicals. That was their one-hit wonder. You get what you give?
Yep, you get what you give.
All right. Quick break. We shall return. I'm sorry. We went a little bit over with Zach. We have plenty of time for you on the other side of 239-1070. Fever Sun. And a closeout opportunity for the Connecticut Sun later on tonight, I should say. Fever trying to push this thing to Friday for a decisive Game 3 of their first-round series with the Sun. Game 3 would be at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. We shall see. Got that, Kevin Bowen, James Boyd, more stuff to give away, including some comedic performance tickets in the 5 o'clock hour, too. So sit tight. By the way, on the road tomorrow and Friday, I'll explain where. Maybe I'll tell you right now and then more explain when I get back. The Bulldog in Broad Ripple tomorrow. I'll get more in-depth on that. Kevin Bowen and more with you. Hour 2 straight ahead next.
The Ride with JMV.
Son, you got a panty on your head. Just drive fast, see?
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
I think everybody would suggest from the 1990s, Space Hog. The 90s give us a lot of one-hit wonders on National One-Hit Wonder Day. You think Space Hog, James? And In the Meantime is a one-hit wonder. Crank it up. And so, more unique names of all time being Space Hog. James Boyd after 5. More tickets to give away. The Bullseye Event Center as well. Big night for the Fever to see if they can maintain. A lot of things to talk about that. I mentioned James Boyd, a little bit more on that coming up in the 5 o'clock hour as well. But what the hell right now for the morning wake-up call with Swee Bo. The Bo part of it is Kevin Bowen, who joins us on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. All right, Kevin, your favorite all-time one-hit wonder. Go.
Paul Anka, right? That song that used to play for me about
She's Having My Baby. He is not a one-hit wonder, but I did play that often when you guys were having number 2. Maybe even number 1, but certainly number 2.
Yeah, I think it would.
She's having my baby.
Yep.
I remember it talked about how something's growing inside her, too, which was a little awkward, lyrically speaking.
Yeah, a little, if you put it lightly, I think. But yeah, give me some one-hit wonders.
Well, obviously, I just played Space Hog. Stars would be one from the 90s. I'm trying to get as close to you. I would guess, I think next and real close, about dancing and, kind of in popping one with the dance partner you're with on the dance floor. You ever heard that? Real close. You're making it hard for me.
Why do all these lyrics revolve around?
Talking about something popping through, all that.
Yeah.
Speaking of lyrical genius or wizardry, I think that song is at the top of the list right there. That's nice. That's good work.
How about the Dancing Queen by ABBA?
Dancing Queen would not be. ABBA has a catalog of hits.
Gosh, I'm just swinging.
I should have prepped you for this. This is my bad.
I feel like what were you playing Saturday night? What was the theme Saturday night?
It was a lot of 80s Saturday night.
Gotcha. We're in the car. The kids are a little chaotic. I meant to call in, so apologies on that.
Why didn't you call in? That's upsetting to me.
Yeah, the car was a little bit too rowdy, so.
No, I played a song. I bet I know what you're talking about. There was a song. It was like from, I think, the same album, but a one-hit wonder from David and David, which is my favorite of all time from the 1980s. It's called Welcome to the Boomtown. Was that maybe what I was talking about? Because I played a second song from the album that nobody knows about, but Welcome to the Boomtown may be one of the greatest one-hit wonders from any decade.
Yeah, because you usually do that, don't you? Usually have a Saturday night that's just one-hit wonders.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That is ringing a bell a little.
All right, Blind Melon, No Rain. You remember that from the 1990s? That's a one-hit wonder.
Oh.
Shannon Hoon's from up around Lafayette, the late Shannon Hoon. That ring a bell?
No, nothing. Right over my head.
Oh, here's one. The Macarena. Los Lobos.
Sure.
No, not Los Lobos. Sure. Whatever Trace, I forget what you say. Macarena.
Yeah. Certainly that. I mean, that was a staple. That would be number one on the Billboard charts.
Tub Thumping, Chumbawamba. I get knocked down, but I get up again. That's a one-hit wonder.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That honestly might be my outright answer. I get knocked down.
Gotcha. So Kevin Bowen on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. I did want to ask you about the Fever as well. Did you think that was purposely done, the Three Stooges-esque finger in the eye of Caitlin Clark Sunday in Game 1?
I don't think it was done on purpose.
Nor did I.
I'd like to think it wasn't done on purpose. And, Caitlin Clark, she pretty miffed at the question period yesterday when it was asked to her about it. I thought Dejanay Carrington's answer about it was about what I would expect, and I thought Lynn Dunn to us this morning made it very clear that it had zero impact and was not a malicious attack. So
it should have been. I will say this: if they're going to have Edward Scissorhands type of nails going on here, there should be some kind of flagrant thing if it does. Because there's two things. I said this a little bit earlier in basketball, and one certainly applies to the dudes, but the other I think is certainly with both. You may want to face guard and may want to try to close out near the face, but you never get in the vicinity of the eyeballs. And with the dudes, you don't get near the eyeballs or the nuts. That's it. And why that is consistently violated is beyond me.
We've, I think, or Andy, I think, asked Lynn Dunn about the nails specifically. And I think.
Oh, did you really? What did she say?
I could have sworn she said there's something in the rule book about it. About the length, I think about the length of the nails. As crazy as it sounds.
You can't roll out there looking like stinking Freddy Krueger on somebody and close out.
I know. It sounds like the polar opposite of like Edgerrin James having to cut his dreads, or Carson Steele one day having to cut his hair because guys are tackling him from behind. But yeah, I just think Carrington, and I know Tasha Harris from Hair Description got banged up, and hopefully she's not out too long. But her and Tawana Bonner, it's just they can just throw a lot of bodies at those two guards, and certainly Caitlin and Kelsey Mitchell missed plenty of open looks.
Yeah.
But if you look at it through the 5 games this year, John, there hasn't been an opponent where Caitlin struggled more than Connecticut. Now, usually it's kind of been in the turnover department, more so than just the missing of open shots. She barely had any turnovers the other night, especially for her. So part of me would like to think, 4 of 23 is just for those two from behind the arc. There's no way that happens again. But at the same time, they have gotten beat handily in that gym 3 times this year. So that gives me some pause, just automatically stamping it as, they'll be back here Friday night. Because I want Friday night. I think it'll be one of the more raucous environments that this city has seen in quite some time. I mean, the Colts haven't provided a home playoff game in nearly a decade, and obviously the Pacers hadn't in a handful of years before this season. And I think it would just be absolutely tremendous if they could provide that.
It's Kevin Bowen, the morning wake-up call with KB and Andy, or as I affectionately reference them as Sweebo. He's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Who has more, and I know it's not the offseason yet, but I'm going to ask you because we won't talk again until next week. Who has more work to do in the offseason to get things right? The evolution of this Fever team with Caitlin Clark, or the WNBA in making sure it's not as discombobulated as it seemed, embracing the type of hype that Caitlin Clark created this season? Who has more of the workload here?
Well, I mean, to what matters to the future of the WNBA is certainly the league as a whole. Again, Lynn Dunn was fired up about this with us this morning, and I couldn't agree more. The fact that you have half of your WNBA teams that could make the playoffs and none of them will get a home game is just beyond me. Like, when you think about markets that are not Caitlin Clark-centric, whatever, I'm just throwing, Phoenix or Atlanta out there, and, you usually get 4,000 to 5,000 per a game. A playoff game, and, the Fever saw this back in the day with Tamika Catchings, et cetera. I mean, you would probably double, if not more, maybe even triple, a normal regular season game with playoff attendance. And think about how many new people are in that building to watch your product. I mean, that's exactly what people dream of from a marketing standpoint of oh my gosh, we are literally doubling the amount of people that are seeing us, in our own arena, on a playoff stage, all of those things. Again, I mean, that is an absolute dream scenario. And the fact that you're missing out on this, as much as the WNBA is, without allowing these home games, is just beyond me. I mean, that to me is such a frankly, a missed layup by the WNBA, that you have these best-of-3 series, that you go 2-1, you don't even do the 1-1-1 format. To me, that is just a huge missed opportunity. And again, it's not just guaranteeing the Fever at least one home playoff game.
Yeah.
Obviously, that speaks for itself. But if you're trying to grow the league in these other markets, because 90-some% of your games are not going to have Caitlin Clark in it, over 90%, then you need to go a long way in that. As far as the Fever is concerned, I mean, by all accounts, it seems like the Kelly Krauskopf thing is exactly what they needed to do to pass the torch and make it rather seamless and keep it stable with a voice that is extremely well respected, not only around the league, but certainly within that organization. So, they obviously have decisions to make, Kelsey Mitchell and things like that. But, yeah, I'd say league-wide is a bigger issue than Fever-wide.
Yeah, I will say this about the league. I don't think that they were prepared at all. And I don't know, honestly, Kev, if anybody could have been, because we knew it was going to be impactful. I don't know if we knew how impactful it was going to be with, her entry, her emergence into the WNBA and the type of effect that had.
Yeah, and to me, it's more of I just can't believe. To me, it's a slap in the face of a lot of those franchises that they didn't allow them to get that other home game.
Yeah, but nobody's cared. They wanted to get it over as quickly as possible before now.
Right.
Let's face it. Yeah. I hate to say it that way, but nobody gave a fat crap until this year.
It's just such a penny-pinching sort of thought versus wow, maybe we should try and swallow a little bit of that area and just say, hey, we're going to get, again, in these markets that don't see 8,000, 10,000 fans for a game, we're going to get that. And if, it's a little bit of the Doug Bowles with IMS. Sure, we're going to throw a EDM concert in our venue, and it might not appeal, it might bring whatever, an extra 1,000, 2,000 people that wouldn't normally come. And at the end of it, if 10 to 20 of them become routine Indy 500 visitors or more than that, we have done our job. And if we do that annually and that can grow, that's important to pass the torch. And I get maybe the 1-1-1 format is not the exact way to do it when you didn't have charter flights before, but at least best of 5 would, I think, make sense. I mean, you still are only getting on a plane. At some cases, you only get on a plane twice, and that's only if the series goes 5 games, which I don't think many of these would go 5 games anyway.
It's funny you bring up Doug Bowles and the Speedway. Doug does all he can to get everybody in there, and, yeah, he's going to have to get Penske to open up the purse a little wider for the whole Carb Day concert. That's an absolute must. That's one thing you recognize. There has to be more bells and whistles, right? And I think to a degree, maybe not all the way, but to a degree, I think there's a relation, a connection to have with what we're talking about with what you rightly describe as the Speedway and what Doug Bowles tries to do as well. But, yeah, one thing you got to get – Penske's got to spend a little bit more money for that Carb Day act. You have to. You can't look that way against Iowa, who has Hy-Vee sweep in and have 3 of the top 5 performers of this era right now perform over that weekend up in Iowa. And here you have the Gin Blossoms. So you got to do better.
Yeah, and I think there is certainly a balance that I'm sure Doug and the people over there fight specifically about, okay, how much are you catering to the constant diehards that have been, literally there for 30, 40 years? And then again, how do you pass that torch effectively to the next generation? And professional sports, no matter, the league is dealing with that. And to me, the WNBA just dropped the ball in what I think, yes, again, financially it would be a little bit of a burden, but we saw what crowds looked like. I mean, I remember looking it up. The last Fever home playoff game had 6,200 people at it. This was 2015, 2016. I mean, what was an average Fever attendance regular season game before this year?
Yeah.
2,000, 3,000, maybe 4. And okay, now you turn that into 6,200 for a play-in game. I mean, that's all. I mean, marketers dream of getting new eyes on products. And, for you to have dropped the ball on that, Lynn Dunn's been pretty aggressive, honestly, and we've asked her about it and kind of calling out the WNBA as a league, and I think she's spot on with it.
Yeah, they weren't ready for it, man. They were not ready for it. I don't think there's any question about that. Kevin Bowen's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. I didn't pay too much attention to it. I'm happy for Richard Goodall of Terre Haute, Indiana. Again, Terre Haute does it again with big-time winning. America's Got Talent, the winner last night, the janitor from Terre Haute. So when will he sing the national anthem at a Colts game? Is that coming up, you think? Maybe he doesn't sing the national anthem. I would assume that he does, but doesn't that happen sooner rather than later?
Hell, it might be Sunday, right? Because aren't you only home for one time in the next 5 weeks?
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah. Well, you saw who sang it on Sunday, Edgerton's daughter.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, they had Edge's daughter singing. She was great on Sunday there. So, yeah, I would assume, have him sing it. Yeah, he seems like a Pittsburgh Steeler blue-collar type of individual. That would be perfect there. So, yeah, why not? Why not Sunday?
Man, I'm glad Terre Haute's carrying the load around here. You know, good thing we have Terre Haute in this state.
What would we do without Terre Haute?
I'm telling you. I don't know where we would be right now without Terre Haute, Indiana. I did want to ask you one Pacer question, too, and I had both Chad Buchanan and Ted Wu in here yesterday talking about a variety of things, and obviously he's under contract, and they always say that, then they smirk at me when I ask about Miles. I do believe that they want him here for an extended period of time because of how he fits within everything here that they want to do, both offensively and defensively. Anything sway your opinion either way as to you think this is going to be it for him, or do you think they find a way, the two parties, to get something done and get an extension?
Yeah, I mean, they seem to be fairly optimistic from the financial side because, like, that to me is more the question. I don't think it's a question about the player or the fit. And I guess maybe you'd be a little worried about committing, more money to guys into their 30s. But, again, I don't think that's a huge issue for them. And you also have to acknowledge just what it looks like behind them. I mean, James Wiseman's last chance to have an NBA future, and then Isaiah Jackson's certainly not a starting center in this league. So, it's not like, whatever, if you traded away Andrew Nemhard or Aaron Nesmith, you could, project we think, Benedict Mathurin can be this or Jarris Walker could be that. I don't think you have that at all at center. So, yeah, I think they are, and I mean, Kevin Pritchard has always been this way. I just think they are such believers in the old culture word, I should say. And I know a lot of people, feel differently about that, or, culture sounds great when it's going well, and then just seems like an easy excuse when it's not going well. But I think they are huge believers in it. I think they're big believers in the run it back came with growth and not 32-year-olds, 5 of them in the starting lineup, and you're holding on for one more year, which I think there's plenty of truth to that. But I found it, whether it was Chad with you or I went over there yesterday and had a little lunch gathering with Chad and Ted as well. I mean, just every time they talk about this team, it is defense. And it's defense in relation to Mathurin. It's defense in relation to Walker. When they talk about minutes, I mean, they even mentioned, Miles getting back to that dominant rim protector. And, so that it just seems like every decision here moving forward will be rooted in that. And as long as Miles doesn't have some severe drop-off, which, again, I didn't see any signs of that. I actually thought he ascended a bit as a player last season. I don't see – unless financially, her has a change of heart or, Miles just gets some massive offer on the open market and he wants to have that, final big payday, I think this is something that would continue moving forward.
I think he would fit in other places, but I think he fits perfectly here. I think all sides understand that.
Yeah, and I think, go back to Siakam's comments just about, having the stretch 5 with them. And, you watch how Siakam plays, and, again, it's a little old school, it's a little throwback, it's a little mid-rangey. Not clogging up the paint with Miles is obviously huge. So I can't wait to see how it all plays out. I mean, I know I've oftentimes, probably been a little bit too Benedict Mathurin heavy, but just him specifically, how he returns.
I'm excited too. I'm with you. Yeah.
Like, I can't wait to see it. And there's a little bit of I can't wait because I think there's some unknown of just, again, his words were a lot different at the end of the year than anything I've ever heard. And you're asking such a tenaciously minded rim attacking basketball player to, be a little bit more patient, I guess, offensively. And is that going to work for him? How is he going to mix that in? I did think actually right before the season-ending injury, he was starting to take some strides in that direction. So how does that look? Certainly Olympic experiences for Nemhard and Halliburton, very different. How do they come year with this team. Again, what is Jarris Walker after a second year? And, how does this look in an Eastern Conference that I think is certainly much more top-heavy than it is out west, which you probably haven't said that in a while. So, yeah, I can't wait, and I can't believe it's already here.
Bowen's here as well on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. So we knew about Quiddy Pay. We knew about Kenny Moore from Sunday. Braden Smith with a DNP today, a DNP in practice on a Wednesday. What do you make of it?
Yeah, sleeve on the left leg. He did not practice due to a knee injury last Friday. Now, he ended up playing every snap against the Bears, but a Braden Smith absence is always one to watch. It especially is one to watch when T.J. Watt is on the other sideline. Yeah, that one has my attention, and I think it deserves monitoring. Now, last year, if you're looking glass half full, Braden Smith did not play in that Steelers game. Blake Freeland got the start, and through the first quarter, it went about how you thought it would go, with T.J. Watt wrecking that game, and then from then on, the Colts were dominant. They ran away from Pittsburgh at 30 straight points. Watt was really quiet. So, it seems like for some reason, when they've played Pittsburgh, I just feel like Braden Smith has been out for some reason more often than not. So, Watt has definitely wrecked some Colts moments for sure. So, yeah, that'll be huge because it would be Matt Gonzalez's first ever NFL snap. I don't know, maybe he's played on special teams, but that's what you would be looking at. But, again, Wednesday injury report, monitor it. But when you're with some veterans, hell, even Latu last week, he only practiced on Friday and was still able to play. So that'll be a big one. I mean, those are some notable names, even if Braden Smith's not on it. But, again, Kenny Moore, yes, it's a big, big loss. But, Pittsburgh, for the most part, is like George Pickens and really no one else in the passing game. That'll be something to watch as well.
I think the problem is on the other side. Number one in total defense, number one in scoring defense, number one in red zone defense, and probably number one in making a very unsure quarterback kind of crap his pants in decision-making situations. So that's kind of where I start and end on Sunday. Hopefully they're able to run the ball with Jonathan Taylor as successfully as they have. But the decision-making and the Steelers kind of dictating that is, I think, worrisome for a lot of Colts fans. It should be.
And I just think how you defend Fields, they haven't faced – I know Malik Willis is one of them, but, it doesn't really count in my eyes. He was only there for 2 or 3 weeks. But, they haven't really faced a dual-threat quarterback in a while. You got to go back to probably Lamar Jackson last year. And you won that game, but Lamar had over 100 yards rushing. So, for a team that I do think they missed a lot of tackles on Sunday. And obviously it's a different tackle variety. It's not Caleb Williams breaking you down the open field, but again, it's just a different challenge with a runner like Fields. I know he hasn't done a ton of it this season, but that's in there. So, guys like E.J. Speed, Zaire Franklin, and Nick Cross, and Julian Blackman, I mean, those guys close to line of scrimmage, how they tackle will be I think a really, really big storyline. Najee Harris a little banged up, Jalen Warren, the backup running back, a little banged up. So, it'll be another, I think, low-scoring, precious point affair, and the team that's probably less stupid will be the team that wins it.
At least the roof will be closed again on Sunday.
Yeah, it definitely will be, right? What's the hurricane called?
Oh, it's always better for the Colts when the roof is closed. And then everybody gripes about and screams and cries about their taxes. You get all the nerds across the hall start screaming about, the taxes, oh, my God. So, yeah, whatever. Nerds. So, yeah, it always seems like it's better for them in terms of winning whenever everything's kind of shut up tight there. So, I'll take it.
Yeah, and again, it is are you getting Spiro on this week? It's our first Spiro action of the season, Spiro Divas action.
Yeah. Is Spiro on?
He's on tomorrow at 4:30.
Tomorrow at 4:30. How about that?
There you go.
Spiro. Hey,
Spiro, Adam Archuleta action.
Are you going with our pickleball thing on Saturday?
I'm trying to. Maddie's in Florida, a little girls' weekend here coming up this weekend.
Woo!
So there's babysitter action there.
Wait a minute. Hold the phone here. Maddie's going on a girls' weekend. Are all these girls, do they have their own husbands here, or is there a little freedom with this girls' weekend happening among those attending?
I would hope there isn't freedom, because I think peer pressure could be a dangerous thing here. So, Yeah, I don't want to speak for everyone involved, but
I'm
pretty
not.
sure
I know that obviously Maddie loves her dude here, but I'm just kind of curious if the party's going to be on with others.
I'm like sweating now.
Oh, yeah, I didn't mean to worry you. Where are they going?
Yeah. I mean, I'm more worried about them going to Florida during a hurricane more than anything. So, yeah, I guess I should probably be worried about multiple things now that you bring that up.
They got a lot of dude strip clubs down in Florida where they're going? You don't want any B-52s perform next to Maddie, okay?
Yeah, that's right. That'd be a good thing for yours truly there. Yeah, I am juggling babysitter, a little soccer match action, and I will try to make it down there. Noon to something or other, right?
It's like 9 a.m. until 4 p.m.
Oh, it's that long? Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it'd be a good time. It says right here, check out JMV and Jake Query as they show off their skills or lack thereof. And my response is we got a ping pong paddle and a wiffle ball and a small court. How hard can this be? Seriously.
So this is your first experience, correct?
Yeah, I've never played before. I played tennis and ping pong. That's just a combination of what this is. How hard is that?
Yeah, and you strike me as a very natural athlete. I've seen you.
Yes, no question.
Swing the golf club. You know what you're doing.
No question. No, I'm glad you recognize that. So, yeah, just curious if we're going to see you on Saturday. Craig Park in Greenwood. Hopefully we do.
I'll try and make it, but judging by what you just said there, I could be divorced as well. So we'll see how it, all plays out.
You get a hurricane, that's a lot of inside time. I didn't know if maybe there are a lot of dude strip clubs down there. You don't want any dude flying the B-52.
That sound effect. I mean, James is rejoining music.
James just gives me the worst looks of all time over there. Seriously, it's like he's 25 years younger than me and gives me the looks like he's my dad or something. So I go, God dang, man.
This is one of those where I hang up and my father-in-law already texted me about this segment.
Well, let me know. And the girls' weekend. All right. So we'll get wild. Get wild. Give everybody my best. Tell Brad I said hello too.
All right, well, he just he turned 73.
Happy birthday to Brad. Brad.
Thank you.
I'll
relay that to Mr.
Brad's he's a very stoic human. Stoic is Brad. I dig that.
Pride of Terre Haute. You know he's in Indiana State ground.
Oh, yeah, see, I'm telling you, Terre Haute just keeps on giving, and Indiana keeps on taking. Yes. Thanks, buddy. Good to talk with you.
See you, John.
It's Andy Moore, Automotive Group Hotline, and Kevin Bowen. My dad says I need to take a break. I'll take a break. Come back with you. 239-1070 on the other side. Bullseye Pass is also on the way. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
There's been a little problem in the cockpit.
The cockpit? What is it?
It's the little room in the front of the plane where the pilots sit. But that's not important right now.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Well, the National One Hit Wonder Day would have to include, from 1995, a band from Champaign, Illinois. This is one hell of a 90s rockin' song right here, James. The band is called Hum. The song is called Stars. That's a good song.
Got an epic album cover of a badly photoshopped zebra.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah. This is a great song. It starts really slow. It kind of goes against the rules of songs I normally love, like starting hard, going quick, and getting out. This takes forever and starts slow. But once it picks it up, that's some solid work right there. From Champaign, Illinois, that would be Stars by Hum. Jeremiah writes this. JMV's making Kevin Bowen sweat a little bit about the ladies' trip to Florida. Hey, Kool and the Gang said it before I ever did. It's ladies' night and the feeling's right. All right? Oh, yes, it's ladies' night. Oh, what a night. Oh, yes, it's ladies' night. Just saying. Just saying. Go to Florida and you cut loose. Matthew writes this. Illinois can have Terre Haute. You guys need Terre Haute. It's a good thing you guys have Terre Haute. It is. It's a good thing. Shout out to the TH. Yeah, I kind of wonder when that dude, if and when that dude will sing the national anthem. I don't know if he does. He may just sing Journey songs. I'm not sure. But evidently he won America's Got Talent. JMV, which would have made you more excited? The millions of dollars Richard Goodall won, or all the Heidi Klum hugs he was, I'm telling you what. I may give back some of that cash for the hugs right there. The entire Heidi Klum family hug right there. Yes. I think you're, Josh, that is on target. At least to me it is. Gregory writes this, no sack, no eyeballs ever, and most of us don't believe it wasn't intentional, but we're all conspiracy theorists. Yeah, I don't think that the poke in the eye, the Three Stooges treatment was, but it was stupid. You don't get near. Don't get near. I know that you do try to guard. Sometimes you guard into the face and you close out, but you got to have some sense, and especially if you're Edward Scissorhands, and not get near the eyeballs. It's just like the dudes. No eyeballs and no sack. And dudes are constantly in basketball violating that, and for the life of me, I do not understand, especially of the intentional Draymond Green to the sack mentality there. What goes through your mind? Hey, I think I'm going to hit this guy in the sack. I wouldn't like it, but let me go ahead and do that. It's a good plan. JMV, agree with you on the poking incident, which makes me laugh. However, what I have an issue with is why these gals have to wear 4 and 5 inch long fingernails. Officials won't let them wear certain jewelry, but yet you can have these long nails. I would agree with you on that. I'll be honest with you. I don't know how you shoot a basketball with those things. I mean, I guess maybe the ones that have those long fingernails are broke as a joke anyway, and it doesn't matter. JMV, back to the Colts conversation here. Tomlin-led Steelers teams have lost to lots of dreadful teams before. Wouldn't shock me losing to the Colts. I don't think I would be shocked either, but you have a combination that is concerning to me. You have a quarterback that is in a bad spot right now. Decision-making, execution. And you have a defense that has been really good, and a defense that is the root of some of those bad decisions. And as I mentioned earlier, and we had a guest yesterday, Mark Bergen, that covers the Steelers, that talked about the 3 levels of defensive, and in this case, defensive difference makers. You know, from Watt up front to Queen I still think they're waiting on Fitzpatrick a little bit, but still. And you're going to be able to lean on, hopefully, Jonathan Taylor again, but this is a team defensively. You talk about making bad decisions against the Bears team, which defensively is pretty good. The Packers are nothing to write home about. But, yeah, you're in a bad spot to get a Steelers defense that's number 1 overall and does a lot of the things that has been problematic for this Colts offense so far. If you're going to look at it from a pessimistic angle, that would be it for me. JMV, I heard you talking to Zach Osterman a little bit earlier, and I can tell you, and I maintain, this is the most excited I have been about IU football in a long stinking time. And good for everybody. I'm glad. Seriously, I'm glad. You want it to be that way. And I think, Zach, what did he say, 45 to 48 ticket sales right now? You don't know really what the weather is going to hold. You can just kind of guess, which is exactly what the weather folks are doing, too. That's what they do, throw darts at dartboards. I would do the same thing if I could, if I was any good at it. Bart says this, the toughest thing for me first time was staying out of the kitchen talking about pickleball. So is that the kitchen area right there I can't get in? Is that what that's called? So you got to stay back in this general vicinity. Am I just making stuff up? Is there a kitchen?
I thought he was making like a food joke.
I thought he was talking about hitting the other person in the sack with the wiffle ball. Like, that's what I think about. Staying out of my kitchen is either like sack or head. Is there a term in pickleball, staying out of the kitchen? Is that the area around the net?
The kitchen, also known as the non-volley zone, is a 7-foot area on both sides of the net.
Oh. So you got to stay in this area right here? Well, that seems stupid. Why can't I go up there and just slam that bad boy down?
No volleyball spikes, apparently.
I guess not. Hell, it'll be okay. Now, how hard can that be? To stay out of the kitchen. Who came up with this? Is the inventor of pickleball reaping the benefits of this level of popularity right now? JMV, you were talking about the WNBA not being ready. Yeah, certainly you understand why you would not be ready, because I don't think anybody fully understood the scope of the impact Caitlin Clark was going to have this year, but don't you have to do better than that? And that's what I mentioned. There's a lot of work to be done. Yes, James, you have an answer for me?
Yeah, the inventor of pickleball was Joel McPhee Pritchard, who was a businessman who also served in the House of Representatives and as the 14th Lieutenant Governor of Washington.
Oh, really? Washington State, huh?
Yeah, he invented it with 2 friends in 1965, it says.
1965?
Yeah. That's actually older than I was anticipating. I thought it was
I had no idea. I thought it was like a year ago.
Yeah, basically, that's what I thought, too.
What is so incredible about it, and I think everybody has noticed, it's taking over all the pickup basketball courts and areas. It is tougher and not for me because, you get to go to schools and stuff, but, the places where you used to go to play are now being overrun by pickleball courts. I would have thought it was much younger than 1965. So is this guy dead or still alive?
Oh, yeah, he's dead.
Long dead. Yeah, the news from the Colts today, the one I think that's going to be worth watching is what Kevin and I talked about. Braden Smith, the right tackle. Missed practice today, sleeve on the left leg. Now, you knew about Kenny Moore, you knew about Kwity Paye going in because their injury status coming out of Sunday's game. Braden Smith was a bit of a surprise, something that is worthy of watching as we roll through the rest of the week. Hey, tomorrow, by the way, in case you missed it, the Bulldog in Broad Ripple, or as you call it, the cool folks, Sobro, Larceny Bourbon Locks, Luna Azul Tequila Shots tomorrow, Broad Ripple at the Bulldog. So join us. I know it's a very popular place. We love being there. We will see you at the Bulldog tomorrow beginning at 3 with our Larceny Bourbon Locks and Luna Azul Tequila Shots. James Boyd of The Athletic, a variety of things coming up at the top of the hour. That is about 15 minutes away. Sit tight in the AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live at 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Lemonheads, my dad's both. You won't go down 'cause my
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
That is Big Head Todd of the Monsters. What's the song called?
Come on in my kitchen.
Come on in my kitchen. We got to stay out of the kitchen in pickleball. Our executive producer, Todd Meyer, who's a huge Big Head Todd fan, requested that. In pickleball, you got to stay out of the kitchen. Pickleball Saturday begins at 9 a.m. at Craig Park with us. Hopefully you will be there 9 a.m. until 4 p.m. Food trucks will be around. Incredible coaching. Celebrity matches. You're going to have a clinic going on, a raffle for prizes. Craig Park, Greenwood, that's coming up on Saturday. 9 a.m. until 4 p.m. Be there. I haven't brought up yet the Matthew Sluka situation with UNLV. I just sit back and laugh. What are you going to do? And we said it all along. You open up the Pandora's box, and, yeah, you know what? I didn't get my money, or I'm not getting enough money. I'm going to go ahead and redshirt transfer out, go someplace else because I'm going to get more money. You know, in a way, if I weren't an old crusty fart that are stuck in my ways of the 1980s, I would say, hey, you know what? If I was in college and somebody said, here's going to be more money down the road, you just want to head and bail on this right now and come here and make more money now, or complain about how you're not getting enough money or getting paid up to your performance, and this is only going to get worse. And you have one side saying that he quit on the team and the other side saying, hey, you know, he's got to go out and make his money. He's never going to make this at the NFL level, so you got to make it right now. That is the bed that all included have made. And that's collegiate sports in a nutshell right there. So enjoy. As we talk about stories like that, and unfortunately, I guess, end up making fun of those involved. And before too long, it will hit someplace close to home. It won't be UNLV where you really don't give a crap. One of these days, it'll hit close to home significantly. More so than it has. You know, I mentioned Terre Haute. Look what happened last year to my Sycamore squad. What a great year it was. I had such an enjoyable time. And then, as I told you, the clock was ticking because as soon as the season was over, it was a mass exodus. Sluka's agent, Marcus Cromartie, confirms to Yahoo, according to Ross Dellinger, that, quote, nothing was signed, but the coaches promised $100,000 to Sluka during recruitment. Sluka's recruiter was UNLV OC Brennan Marion. Cromartie, quote, the collective may not have agreed to $100,000, but coaches did. There's your college stories right now. You guys enjoying that? And again, it doesn't hit close to home, so I'm sure it doesn't have the impact that it might otherwise have. All right, quick break. We shall return. James Boyd, top of the hour. Be ready for that and your chance to win more stuff, including bullseye passes. Man, sit tight. Having a good Wednesday with you. AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live. If you're going on fall break, get that AAA membership today. They got your back. AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live at 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
Idiot in the dictionary. You know what you'll find?
Picture me?
No! The definition of the word idiot, which you f***ing are.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
National One Hit Wonder Day. James, this is the Force MDs. All Alone. What album is this from? What soundtrack from the 1980s?
Chillin'?
Huh?
Chillin'?
That's their album, right? But it is from a soundtrack.
Oh, I have no idea.
Of a very popular 80s film.
Footloose?
I mean, I get in Ladies' Choice Snowball at Western Skateland, and I'd be stuck on the wall. The song would be playing. The girls would roller skate around and pick all the other dudes, and I'd be left there by myself. Think about this moment playing, and I'm on the wall all alone.
This is taking you back to a specific moment, isn't it?
It is. I'm feeling very emotional. Crush Groove is the film. Look at Crush Groove as far as soundtracks go. That's where the Beastie Boys, I think, made their debut.
Never even
on
heard of
Crush
this, though.
Groove. The song She's On It is on Crush Groove, and that's an awesome Beastie Boys song, a little known, a little played. Sheila E's on there. Rock, Holly Rock. Everybody want a Holly Rock? That's on there. I think, who else? The Gap Band's on that as well. Love Triangle, which is a great song from Crush Groove. I think the Fat Boys. You remember the Fat Boys, the rappers?
You could be making all of this up right now.
Oh, I could, but I'm not. It is true. Force MDs right there. That was probably a prom song for a lot of the cool folks out there back in my era. On National One Hit Wonder Day, Kevin Bowen of Sweet Bo in the Morning a little bit earlier, and Zach Osterman of the Star highlights, a day at IU, a recruiting week at IU for basketball, and, of course, the biggest game since 2021 to many for the IU football program coming up on Saturday, hosting Maryland at noon. Podcast 1075thefan.com. Spiro's on the show tomorrow. Spiro Ditas, correct, of CBS. He's got the call with the Steelers and the Colts coming up on Sunday. Mike Silver, longtime NFL writer, also joins us. Bulldog, we're in Sobro tomorrow for you with our Larceny Bourbon Locks and Luna Azul Tequila Shots with our betting analyst, Brent Halverson. Can't wait to see you there. Meantime, on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline, he is very young, but I always consider James Boyd from The Athletic incredibly hip. Do you remember, do you know of the legend that is Crush Groove, James?
I do not. I'm so sorry to announce that to the world.
Damn.
That song was a jam.
Yeah. Do you recognize, you do know who the Beastie Boys are, though, right?
Yes, I do.
Okay. The Gap Band, does that ring a bell?
That does ring a bell. Look, I'm 1995.
I know you are, man. I know. But we're in an era. We're in an era. It's not like when I grew up in the 80s and you go back decades like that, and if your parents didn't have or grandparents didn't have a 45 collection, you didn't know, you can easily go back now. And,
absolutely.
Yeah, right, and get this. So, yeah, I guess that's what sometimes when we're separated by so many different eras, so many different decades, I go, hey, just go back and learn it a little bit, would you, James? Come on, man. Help a guy out here.
Look, when I get some free time, I got you. This is like when I take movie recommendations from you and Jay Query.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, Jake does the same thing to you. I know that. Well, speaking of time in which you're busy, you're going to be busy later on tonight with an opportunity for the Fever. And I know these opportunities against Connecticut are fleeting because Connecticut does a lot of the stuff and plays well in a lot of the areas in which the Fever can tend to struggle. Any chance for this to go to a decisive Game 3 at Cambridge Fieldhouse on Friday night?
Absolutely. I think you draw confidence from the fact that you beat this team throughout the regular season, and when the Fever are playing their A game, they can hang with pretty much anybody in the WNBA. They've beaten every team in the WNBA this year except for the Las Vegas Aces. So there is some hope there. There's some confidence. And I just think, getting that first playoff game out of the way is just good experience overall for the entire group. I mean, you had players on the team who are veterans, but someone like Kelsey Mitchell had never been in the playoffs before. And so I think she'll play better. I think Caitlin Clark obviously can play better. We'll see how she responds to that, stingy and tough Connecticut Sun defense. But I think you have to go into this game knowing that you can win and then just play free. Once the ball goes up, it's kind of like you're in the NCAA tournament again for Caitlin Clark, and it's win or go home. And the last 2 years, she's been able to get to that last game. So I'm excited about tonight.
Hey, James, do you think the WNBA now wishes they had a best-of-5 format instead of a best-of-3?
Absolutely, but I think this is also when we can get into the explosion around the league, the attention, the Caitlin Clark effect, and others, Asia Wilson balling out, bringing eyes to the game. I think all those things are big because when it comes to that next TV contract, the next deal, you can negotiate these things in your CBA to hopefully have, situations where teams don't work all year to get a playoff spot and then aren't guaranteed at least one playoff game at home. So, that probably won't change in the near future, but I do think it'll happen, within the next 10 years or so, hopefully, because it would be exciting to, again, have teams host a playoff game regardless of if they lose, the first two or whatever. But best of 5 seems a little bit better than best of 3, but that won't help the Seaver tonight. So they got to win one. And then, the benefit is if you do win one tonight, you get do or die, take it all, that type of game at home on your own floor.
It's James Boyd writes for The Athletic. He's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. We all knew the impact of Caitlin Clark was going to be significant. However, did you think it was going to be to this level in which we have witnessed?
No, not to this effect. I know my buddy Ben Pickman put out a story this morning. I have to read it in The Athletic, and it's about, Caitlin having a similar effect on the WNBA to what Michael Jordan had on the NBA. And obviously we know how MJ elevated the game to a global stage. And I think Caitlin Clark has done, a similar thing. And I'm not saying for those listening that she's Michael Jordan or anything like that. Look, I'm trusting her from the Chicago area. I know he's a legend and all those things, but you look at we're talking about impact and growth and fame. She is that big. And so, it's exciting to see. And I definitely was kind of taken aback by it because I just didn't know that she would have, games at every time of the day, every day of the week, looking like playoff games here in Indianapolis, especially after being someone who was there before she got there, before Leah Boston got there, and seeing what was and now seeing what is and seeing that for most people, they're the best show in town.
Hey, James, I know that they still have an opportunity tonight. This is going to sound like the season is over. I'm not trying to suggest that whatsoever, but I am curious since I'm talking to you right now. You got any adjustments in mind that need to be made, some have-tos for both the Fever and their team and what they do around Caitlin Clark and the WNBA, from what you had mentioned previously to future television contracts to once again more maximizing the popularity of just really an individual player, in this case in Caitlin Clark? Any ideas you have which need to be exercised as we move forward?
It's a great question. I think a lot of it also has to just come down to scheduling. I know one of the biggest complaints that I dealt with or that I saw on my timeline throughout the regular season in the WNBA was that you would have all these games kind of overlapping at different times, and there was not a good way to maybe funnel some of the attention that Caitlin Clark brought into the next game afterwards or the game before. When you have 2 teams playing at the same time or 3 teams playing at the same time, it's hard to try to, diversify your viewership. And I think sometimes we can say, oh, people only want to watch Caitlin Clark. And trust me, a lot of people only want to watch her. We can see the numbers for ourselves. But others who might be, curious aren't able to, easily access those games sometimes. And that can be frustrating for viewers. Now everyone's going to pay for, WNBA League Pass like I did, even though it only costs like $30 or something like that. You want to try to make those games more accessible for sure. And on top of that, I think it's, realizing that, you can take the game and make it more than just the game. I think it's merchandise. I think it's shoes. I think it's, trying to push it, as far as you can. You see Caitlin Clark, and I'm excited about it because I think she's kind of broken this mold where you can, be a little bit more than just a basketball player. And you've seen other players do it. Sabrina Ionescu is one of them. I have her basketball shoes at the house, and they're pretty good shoes, and they're really cool shoes, and did a whole story about how her shoes took over the NBA this past season. And so I think Caitlin Clark could have a similar effect as far as, on the NBA too, and other WNBA players too. So I'm excited about it, but I think just keep marketing the game, keep pushing the game forward, and try to get, better TV deals so more people can just see you, because the easier you are to find, the easier you are to, build fan bases and build that, that stick-to-itiveness that you want from fans that'll, help grow the game.
So, do you like her shoes comfortable?
Sabrina's, yes. I think her shoes are pretty comfortable. I'm more of like a three-quarter length, high type of guy myself, because I rode my ankles a lot in high school. But I do have her shoes. I like playing in them. I mean, I'm not playing as hard as I did back in the day, even though I'm 28, but I'm not going to the basket like that or slashing and all those things. But her shoes are really cool. And like I said, a lot of the NBA guys loved them. I know Ben Shepherd for the Pacers wore them. Drew Holiday wore them. Obviously, he thought they were good enough to win a championship in. And so I think that as long as Caitlin Clark's shoes are cool and people are more inclined to just go out and buy them. And I know some guys are like, oh, it's a woman's shoe. No, it was branded as a unisex shoe. And to me, I don't think people really care that much. It's just if the shoe looks cool, they'll wear it. And so I think Nike, if they're smart, will do a good job of putting, good Caitlin Clark product out there as far as her shoes, and also Asia Wilson, who has a sneaker on the way as well. So I personally will be buying both with my own money just because I'm a sneaker guy, I'm a hoops guy, and I want to try to put my money where my mouth is when I say I want to support the women's game.
The Nike Sabrina 1 Oregon shoes, those things look badass right there. I like those.
Man,
that's a good look. It says Quack on the side too. I like it.
Yeah, I got a nice pair of shoes from her, of Sabrina's, and I'm excited about her line. She got the Sabrina 2 out now as well. So I think, again, the more you put it out there, man, the more people are going to accept these things. It's so funny because people complain at the beginning, oh, my God, the shoe was ugly. Why are they making this shoe? Men wouldn't buy this. And then you look up in a few years and people realize how stupid all that sounded and just buy good stuff when they see it.
So, James Boyd of the Athletics on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. I do want to shift gears. Steelers-Colts matchup coming up on Sunday. The Colts get their first win over the Bears on Sunday. The last 2 weeks for Anthony Richardson have not been good. And I know that there's still time, and he's going to be given that time, and even with all the calls for Flacco, that's not going to happen, nor should it happen, unfortunately, unless he gets injured, and that's the only time you're going to see Flacco. However, if there is one main thing that you believe could be an issue that in his repertoire that he can never get quite over the hump here, never quite master, is it going to be ball placement here, or is it's something else? And how much does that, if that's the case, James, worry you for the longer term?
It's a great question. It's a loaded question, which I always love from you, JMV. But I think I think with Anthony, man, I have to be honest. The way he threw the ball this past Sunday was not good. It was actually pretty awful. And on top of that, I think the reason that they won this game, and I'll credit to the defense, credit to Jonathan Taylor for looking like Jonathan Taylor. And as I like to say, he was Jonathan Tayloring, make it a verb.
Yeah.
He was dominant. They're not going to win very many games if Anthony performs like that, and they won that game because they're facing another terrible team. And I thought that, the Bears are not a good team. If you look at, them, yes, they had won a game coming into that game, but they had won a game because Will Levis, made one of the worst plays you'll ever see in a football game that lost them that game. And so all that to say, I do think that the accuracy is an issue. It looks a little bit worse than last year, which is a bit alarming. I'll admit that. I'll give him some grace because it's only 7 games into his career, and he's coming off, a big-time shoulder injury. So there's some maybe some rust there. But on top of all those things, man, you're the number 4 pick. You're the franchise guy. You have to be able to at least make some of the layup. I think that Sunday was one of those games where it's like he couldn't make any of them hardly. And so it is concerning. I do think that, as much as Shane Steichen and Jim Bob Cooter and others are saying, oh, he's going to improve and it's going to happen, and I trust him. He can make all the throws. He's done it before. I don't know, and I'm just being honest. Yes, Josh Allen is the best case scenario, but Josh Allen also is like an anomaly for most guys. They usually don't become more accurate when they get to the hardest and highest level of the sport. And so we'll see. It's early. I'm not going to panic. I would say if you're looking up, in week 9 or 10 and Anthony's still throwing like this and he's completing only 48% of his passes, you have reason to, be, worried. But right now, I would just say, it's 3 games, super small sample size for this season alone, and we'll see if he can bounce back. I think he's mentally tough to do it. But, yeah, I'd be lying if I said, I just think that he's automatically going to become accurate. I don't know. We'll have to see. And that's the risk that they took drafting him as high as they did.
You know, I would agree with you on that, too. This is not so much a loaded question here, but from what you noticed, especially on Sunday, and, I mean, he's human like everybody else is, and it's going to get to you. But I thought you could definitely tell that he had zero confidence in being able to put the football where it ultimately needed to be. And he – I mean, his feet were moving around everywhere. You know, he was, leaning and throwing off he was all over the place. And it almost looked like to me that even when it wasn't necessary to panic, he was kind of in panic mode just because he had confidence in the fact that he wasn't going to be able to deliver it accurately.
Yeah, it was, to me, a bit of a snowball effect. That was the first time I had kind of seen him go through that at this level. And obviously, I haven't been watching Anthony for all that long. None of us have. But that's how I felt after that first throw of the second half, the first play of the second half. I was like, wow, that is egregious. Now, I'm sure you probably talked about this stuff in the locker room. You've watched, the film on the tablets on the sidelines, and to come out and have that kind of throw after some of the, really poor throws that you had in the first half, that was concerning. And I was thinking, man, like, is this going to be a game where they have to hand it off, every single time, or he cannot just be trusted to throw it down the field at all? Now, he did bounce back a little bit, but again, this is where I think, and actually, I guess I'm giving it away a little bit, but I actually just filed a piece on this, and it'll come out tomorrow in The Athletic. But this is where I think the team has to remember, and I think they have for the most part, that while Anthony is their most important player, Jonathan Taylor is their best player, best skill position player.
Yes.
And so for now, while you're trying to make sure that Anthony can, get the reps that he needs and, try to fine tune some things, the bottom line is he's not going to become more accurate during the season. I mean, it's just he can obviously be a better decision maker and make better throws. I'm not saying that, but I just mean overall to a football player, it's not going to be this overnight quick fix. It's going to be over many nights. And so in the meantime, I think that you rely heavily on the running back that you paid a lot of money to, man, who has shown that he can carry that workload and has been one of the best players in the NFL throughout the first 2 weeks of the season. So rely on him, take some pressure off Anthony Richardson, try to get, those throw attempts down, and then also use him as a runner. I mean, I know people are concerned about his health and him getting hurt, but it's either he can hold up and he's your guy, or he can't hold up and he's not your guy. But either way, you got to try to make sure that he's put in situations where he can optimize his strengths. And right now, one of them, unfortunately, isn't making the layup. So we'll see if he can correct it against the Steelers, who, by the way, are a very good defense.
Yeah, and I think they bring to the table a lot of things, James, that is going to have a profound negative effect on, in this case, Anthony Richardson, if he maintains in that rut we have seen under center for the last 2 games. I mean, I mentioned this earlier, number 1 in total defense. Their defense in the red zone has been the best. Their scoring defense has been the best. And they harass you into making bad decisions, making mistakes, and that's certainly problematic for him. And I would also agree with you that Taylor is a must, and they realize that certainly now. But as much as you want to keep him in a glass case from running the football because you're worried about him getting injured, that's what he does more successfully than anything else right now. So you do, to a degree, have to turn him loose, certainly, I think, offensively more than we've seen.
Absolutely. I think that is a big reason why they drafted him number 4. It wasn't just the arm. It wasn't just the arm talent. It was the dual threat capabilities that he possesses that really all the top quarterbacks in the NFL have to have. I know Patrick Mahomes is number 1. He's not a true, designed to run type of quarterback, but he is mobile. And I think that mobility can help bend some things in Anthony's favor. And also, if you use him as a runner, and I've talked to different guys around the building about this, and it's not, rocket science, but if you use him as a runner, and teams have to account for that, it's going to create easier throwing lanes as well. Now, again, he had some easy throwing lanes this past Sunday and just missed them, so he still has to go out there and execute. And I think a lot of it, too, would be with him calming down, not rushing, and then also practicing good mechanics, because some of the mechanical stuff that I'm seeing from him, it's rushing and it's leading to bad mechanics. So he has to slow down and use his legs. I haven't seen many design runs from this offense this year. And a lot of that is dictated by the defense, but I think that Shane is smart enough to draw up some QB dives and some QB plays where he's making reads or making zone reads or making, run pass option reads where he can use his legs and kind of get the defense off balance, because I think that'll, one, keep the chains moving, keep the offense on the field, because the defense played a ton of plays this year because the offense can't. They either score in 3 plays or they don't score at all, which is what it seems like. And then on top of that, again, just settle him in a little bit because he is young. I mean, he's still the youngest starting quarterback in the NFL. I can't forget that. But just because he is young doesn't mean he can't, be held to a high standard, which he will be, because he's the starting quarterback of an NFL team, and an NFL team in Indianapolis that's known for having great QB play, at least when they've been relevant, as long as I've been alive.
Yeah, from the Athletic, James Boyd on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. I want to get back to hoop one final time. I had both Chad Buchanan and Ted Wu in studio yesterday. We were talking about a variety of things. Obviously, a full season with Siakam, getting back a healthy Halliburton. You wanted to see the evolution of Nembhard. These are all among the top of the list of things I can't wait to see. But will we agree the most highly anticipated portion of this team is the reemergence from injury of Benedict Mathurin? And if that is the case with you, what's your expectation? And I'm talking about on both ends, not just the Mathurin attacking the basket that we saw early and often offensively, but the more well-rounded Mathurin that they're looking for to evolve into a situation to help the collective team out. What are you most impressed about? What do you want to see from him, and what's your expectation?
Yeah, that's a great question. I was actually watching a video the other day when he was at an open gym this past summer.
I'm watching it too right now. It's right in front of me.
Gilbert Arenas' son. And I was like, wait a second, now I'm getting old, because I started watching him, drop 60 on Kobe. And so Benedict looks good. He looks healthy. And he was talking his trash and doing what he do. He's a very confident young man. But I think as far as him fitting into the Pacers and what they're trying to do, it's a hard balance to find, but he has to, one, accept that he's not going to have the ball in his hand a ton with Tyrese Halliburton out there, Pascal Siakam out there, TJ McConnell, running the show sometimes, but learning how to play fast, make quick decisions, keep the ball moving, but also when to call his number and when to go get a bucket, because I think they missed some of that ability, especially when they ran up against the Boston Celtics in the playoffs. And so I think he should also buy in defensively. If you're not going to be the number one guy on offense like you've been probably your entire life until you got to the NBA, expend some of that energy on defense and work and make it tough on other guys. And then, like I said, embrace whatever role you have on offense. Because I think if he can step up and embrace that role and pick his spots better and take another leap, that's the biggest ask or biggest hope for this Pacers franchise. Because if you look at other teams around the East, I mean, the Pacers didn't go out and get Mikal Bridges. The Knicks did that. The Sixers didn't go out, went out and got Paul George. Yeah. So they're better. You look, obviously the Boston Celtics are still there. Their core is still in their prime. And so for the Pacers, to me, it's like if you're looking to get to that next level, it's going to involve Benedict or Jarris Walker taking a leap forward. And if I had to guess which player is more likely to do so, it's Benedict, because he's older, he's more experienced. And I've just seen, that ability from him, man. He can play. He can really, really play. It's just, can you play within a team that, obviously can score with the best of them, but might need you when the game slows down in the playoffs versus, you playing ISO ball in, November. So we'll see what happens. I'm excited about it. I think he's excited about the challenge. And this season is going to be a fun one, because I do think if the Pacers are healthy, they have a shot as good as anybody's in the Eastern Conference, even without adding some of the big-name players that we saw other teams do.
No, I mean, really, you rarely see it. And here it's been a dirty phrase, running it back, because the Colts seemingly have done it, and the Colts haven't found success. The Pacers are doing it after I should say, a surprisingly successful season, and it makes every bit of sense what they're doing with this group, because there's a chance to win in the now and grow and continue to win with this young core in the future. James Boyd of The Athletic on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. It is always a pleasure, man. I appreciate you. We shall do it again very soon. We'll see you on Sunday.
Yes, sir. I'm excited about it. We'll see what happens.
James Boyd of The Athletic. Andy Moore, Automotive Group Hotline. Damon sent me this. JMV was on the station website and saw this on the bottom of the page. It was the JMV takeover when it was just 3 hours. February 25th, 2019. JMV took over B1057 on Saturday, maybe the greatest 3 hours in Indianapolis radio history. Now it's 6 hours. In fact, when I first started doing it at 6 o'clock on Saturday night, Damon, it was 6 until 10. Remember, originally it was 6 until 10. And then they decided it needed to be a full 6 hours and stretch it from 6 until midnight. But initially, I would do it from 8 until noon on Saturday morning when I first started, very early stages. It is an absolute juggernaut right now on Saturday night. And I thought it was going to be big. I never thought, however, playing back 30, 35, 40, 45, 50-year-old songs by request for people that called in was going to be as big as it has. But I'm glad it has been. It's fun as hell to do. Thank you, Damon, for that. Quick break. We shall return. Got your chance to win some stuff. I'll explain coming up on the other side. Sit tight. AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live. I'm waving at you right now. It's 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
full tank of gas, half a pack of cigarettes, it's dark, and we're wearing sunglasses. Hit it.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
That one-hit wonder day, national one-hit wonder day, includes Carl Douglas from 1974. Number one it was in 1974 with Kung Fu Fighting. Good song right here. Harris Hoosier Park race of the day coming up in just a second. That's 50-50 in betting and dining, courtesy of Harris Hoosier Park Racing and Casino. That is in Anderson. Joseph Lee chimes in. JMV, where's our good friend Gina Glaros going to end up now that she's evidently out the door at Channel 13, which is dumb as hell? Seriously, dumb as hell. I have reached out to the empty suit, and the empty suit has yet to reach back. I'm assuming he says, I owe you no conversation. So we'll just have to rip his ass. But I don't know. I think both she and Lindsay will join us at Taylor's Pub on Friday. So I don't know if there's going to be any insight. This is going to be your last weekend. I love hanging out with them. They are fun as hell. I know you guys do too when you show up on Friday remotes. I guess there's one thing around here, and as I said earlier this week, I feel, and a lot of you are going to go, hey, where do you get off? You know, this is not your department, but I kind of feel as if I've been around here, that I've earned the right to have opinions about things that you guys either like to listen to or like to watch, because I've ridden right along with you. And to me, it's always been the best, as you can see across the board with these legacy folks in media around here, whether it's, writers or television personalities or radio personalities, that it's always the local aspect along with professionalism, talent, and you got everything right there. And I've never really understood why that would be sacrificed or jeopardized. And I don't even know, it may not even be the empty suit here locally. Maybe it's empty suits of Tegna someplace else. But it makes zero sense to me. So I don't know, maybe CBS 4, maybe Fox 59. We have good friends over there. But it's certainly, and I'm biased because they are friends and she is a friend. It would certainly, to me, make a lot of sense to go with somebody local, trusted, and talented like that. And make less sense to me if you're Tegna and Channel 13 and the empty suit over there to let that go. It's me. Tony Donahue chimes in with, hey, I like the show. Can we get some Big Country? Big Country in a Big Country is a one-hit wonder, but maybe on the fringe they had a song called Fields of Fire that may give them two right there. JMV, I guess Gina won't need to take naps anymore. Not for a while, I guess, right? And to get her plenty of time to come out and hang with us on a Friday. That's for sure. Until we're successful in getting her another gig. And I know that there's also Wish and there's RTV6. And I go, all right, well, okay. Like I've said, I haven't seen Wish in about 5 years. You think they're ever going to get back on DirecTV, or is that just a pipe dream for anybody that's ever cared to turn on that channel that has DirecTV? So, out of curiosity, just going to be on autopilot forever and not there? You will always have your live antenna. I do have an antenna in a different room now. I can watch it if I want, if I have to. You got to work for it, though. I don't know if I want to work for it. So, yeah, the naps. Yeah, get back to that main sleeping pattern that you have right there. Hey, speaking of which, I mentioned Taylor's coming up on Friday. I believe they will join. I believe Hagan will join, too, so we'll get a lot working on Friday. Tomorrow's show, and there may have been a little bit of confusion because I think last week Brent Halverson had suggested we were going to be up in Castleton at the Free Spirit when, in fact, tomorrow we are at the Bulldog in Broad Ripple. So hopefully you can join us tomorrow, where we're going to have a very busy show tomorrow as well. Along with our betting analyst, Brent Halverson, our Week 4 selections coming at you tomorrow with the NFL in mind. We've got Mike Silver on tomorrow to talk some NFL. Spiro is back tomorrow, Spiro Ditas of CBS. He's got the call. He and Adam Archuleta of the Steelers and the Colts coming up on Sunday. Think the Colts can even this thing up at a game apiece? Hopefully so. We'll talk to Spiro about that coming up tomorrow. Mike Chappell also is going to join us. That is on tomorrow's show, the SPT. By the way, shout out to SPT, that's Sean Patrick Turley, for the great call into the Smiley Morning Show this morning on National One Hit Wonder Day. Bertie Higgins is indeed Key Largo. Key Largo and Bertie Higgins is a classic yacht rock song. Is a one-hit wonder, but no, man, SPT, that was a fantastic call that you made this morning into the Smiley Morning Show. I didn't even know you went with regrowhairandy.com, which was outstanding. Good stuff. I think you got to remember, you got to become, I think, a part of that particular show. JMV, I heard you talk about UNLV and their situation. How long before the standardized NIL after UNLV? I don't know where it's going. I have just informed you to get used to it. This is going to be a world until further notice of normalcy, where the players exercise their options whenever they want, whatever they can. I would have to think, though, to answer your question, Croc, truly, at some point, you would think that two sides would come together and stop the ridiculousness. But, as of right now, let's face it, it's not ridiculousness. It's a protocol, because it's an option in which you have, an option in which it's created, and it may run a lot of people away. It may run people away of the older generation, much like me, much like some of you out there. But this is going to be normalcy, procedural normalcy until further notice, even though it seems absolutely crazy. It will be normalcy. So when I heard that story, I go, wow. Regarding the quarterback at UNLV. And it'll hit closer to home. I mean, if it hasn't hit close to you yet, at some point it will. This is a matter of time. So we'll see how long everybody ends up living with it. JMV, are you going to have Richard Goodall on the show? I've not. The one thing I thought about is when this guy that won America's Got Talent, and I've never watched it before, and I just kind of watched his highlights of singing his Journey songs and how he won it. He won $1 million, which I think somebody would have to tell me after taxes probably is about $500,000, but that's good. I think he gets paid. He either got to get it in a lump sum, or he gets paid in like $20,000 per year increments. I'm assuming since he's in his mid-50s, probably a lump sum. But shout out to Terre Haute. I would assume that if he can, he would sing the national anthem at a Colts game or somewhere over here at some point, but I'm not sure. Yeah, certainly at Indiana State game. But I would expect it would make it over here. That's actually the first time I'd ever watched it. And really, I didn't watch it. I just watched it with the highlights. But good for the janitor from Terre Haute getting it done and taking home the $1 million from America's Got Talent. Got something to give away right now. In fact, a couple of different things. You want to work this twice here? How about we do that? Sebastian Maniscalco. Sorry, I almost said it like James said it earlier. Comedian Cambridge Fieldhouse coming up in February. Sebastian Maniscalco is going to be here, and you can be there as well. Number 9 at 239-1070. You can go check out the incredibly popular comedian at Cambridge Fieldhouse coming up in February. Also, your Harris Hoosier Park race of the day coming up. 50-50 in betting and dining to the winner. The Harrah's Hoosier Park race of the day is now.
With JMV.
It takes him a second to get on the stool because he's under 5 feet tall.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
All right, there's Whoop, There It Is as a one-hit wonder on National One-Hit Wonder Day. There was actually two very similar, right? You had Whoop, There It Is by Tag Team. Do you remember the other one, James? That would be Woot, There It Is by 95 South of the 1990s. There was Whoop and there was Woot.
Those were two entirely separate songs.
Yes, Whoop and Woot.
Did they sound similar at all?
A little bit, yeah. Whoop. You can go find Woot, There It Is by 95 South. Yeah, I know a lot of you want to hear Daisy Dukes. Yeah. One-hit wonders from the 90s right there. Whoop, There It Is by Tag Team and Woot, There It Is and 95 South. Chris Baxter, your Harris Hoosier Park Race of the Day winner. $14.20 on a $2 bet. $2 exacta was $65.20. 50-cent trifecta, $161.60 overall. Not a bad afternoon for Chris and company with the Harris Hoosier Park Race of the Day, 50-50 betting and dining from Harris Hoosier Park Racing and Casino in Anderson. We do that Tuesday through Friday right here on The Fan. And a shout-out to Rick Moore and Tony Rins and all our friends up at Harris Hoosier Park Racing and Casino. That is in Anderson. 95 South, Woot, There It Is. Tag Team, Whoop, There It Is. You got Woot? No, I don't know how to make us. You get a clean version of this, I hope? I don't know. Yeah.
I'm looking at the lyrics right now.
Are you really? Is anything cussing? I can't remember if that thing drops any.
I don't
any F-bombs
see
or
any,
no?
but
Yeah.
just to be safe, I'll start to fade it.
There you go. Woot, There It Is. And Whoop, There It Is. Skivvy says, here's classic. How about Too Shy by Kajagoogoo? In fact, Kajagoogoo is a one-hit wonder. Lamal is the lead singer of Kajagoogoo. Lamal had a hit with Never Ending Story from the soundtrack of the film of the 80s of the same name, Never Ending Story. Lamal of Kajagoogoo right there. Hey, shout out to Ed Carpenter. So Ed Carpenter making some changes, obviously. Changes Renus VK bailing out of ECR, and Ed adds Alexander Rossi to the stable a little bit earlier today. That announcement was made around noon. Alexander Rossi, now a racing member of Ed Carpenter Racing. So good for Rossi right there, and good for Ed. I saw this. Somebody can help me out. Ed now has a partnership with ECR with the guy that owns Splenda here locally. Is that what that is? Is it Heartland Foods Group that manufactures, among other things, I guess most notably Splenda? Can you guys confirm that for me? And if so, my question is, and probably because I say this guy and that guy and who's this guy and who's that guy, but why is Splenda not an incredible sponsor of this show right now? Now you're on board with ECR. I think it's time to bring your sugar over to me. Give me some of that sugar money there, Splenda.
See, I miss the cheese people.
Oh, yeah. Well, you saw what happened to them.
Yeah, I did. I saw
Did
your
you
tweet.
see that?
I
Nice?
did see your tweet,
Like
yeah.
last year, everybody's going, we can't find it. We can't find Windschuler's anywhere. And this year, it's on clearance for $3.14 a tub. See, again, always know where to go. When you're trying to sell, always know where to market the spreadability. Spreadability is right here. Windschuler can learn from that. Last year, there was no $3.14 on clearance special of Windschuler's. It was hard to find. Yeah, the Splenda guy. What's the Splenda guy's name here before we go? Can you find that out? Splenda. You need Splenda as an advertising sponsor of this show. You put Splenda in your drinks?
Nope.
Hey, I'll rip open a package of Splenda and drop that in my coffee.
Ted Gelov.
Ted?
Gelov. Depends on how you pronounce it.
Come on now, Ted. Congratulations to Ed. Ed and Ted. Ed's a big-time friend of this show. And Alexander Rossi, too, is a good dude. A great show today. We'll recap, but first things first. Got you on the other side. Coach Daily Update. Remember tomorrow, Sobro, everybody. Long City Bourbon Locks, Luna Azul Tequila Shots at the Bulldog. Don't miss that, Ted. Tomorrow at 3.